Welcome everyone to today's program of the Dr. Ward Bond Show, and I have a very special guest this morning, a very uplifting, very touching story that I think some of you can actually relate to. I've received so many emails from you dealing with some severe health conditions, and I think today's interview to kick off the show with my guest today is Janine Reid. She is a author, but more importantly, she's a mother, and she has written a brand new book coming out May 12th called The Opposite of Certainty: Fear, Faith, and Life in Between. And she's going to share with us her very personal story about her son with a slow growing brain tumor. And Janine, welcome to the program today.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to meet you.
Well, I want to ask you that I know that your life took a very unexpected turn. And when your young son was diagnosed with this slow growing brain tumor in a situation filled with so many difficult challenges, what was one of the most difficult struggles that you were forced to face in all of this?
Well, my son Mason was diagnosed with this pediatric brain tumor when he was 10. And we learned to make an uneasy peace with it. He had some treatment. It wasn't terribly awful. We went through, he would have frequent MRIs but then, there's always a but then, right?
Oh, yeah.
When he was 13, he had a massive hemorrhage in his tumor. And, when I think about it, that was the divide in our lives between what we thought was going to happen and what our new reality became. So at that point, he was in the hospital for 6 months. We basically all were. I have 2 other children, so there was a lot of juggling in terms of trying to mother everybody and be there for everyone, which I think everyone can relate to how difficult that is and maybe impossible. And Mason had to learn to walk, talk, eat, all those things all over again. And thus began our journey for the last 10 years, really, of trying to see what did this new normal changes every day. We live in a very tenuous, often unknown, uncertain place.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because the title of your book, being that it is about the opposite of certainty, but fear, faith, and life in between. And, it takes the same amount of energy to have fear in your life. It takes the same amount of energy to have faith in your life. And there's really, for all of us, that, if you're a follower of Jesus, it comes down to which one are you going to choose? And for you, I know that I can't even imagine being a parent and having that diagnosis upon your own child and thinking probably that just rush of, fear just flooding your mind. How did faith play a role in all of this?
Well, I have to say that I really questioned a lot of what I thought faith was in my life. I like to say that I thought faith was something I had, like a AAA card. I think I looked at faith like a hedge against the limits of my own self-will. And then we come up like the whole world is right now. We're looking at, we are so much powerlessness. So how do we reconcile a loving God in our lives when there's so much suffering?
Right.
So the good news is I have more faith now than I ever have.
We hear so many people saying, well, there's a choice. You can pick fear or faith. And,
right.
And I understand the spirit of fear, but sometimes fear propels us forward. And faith isn't really faith until it's been tried and tested. And with you and your family, this has been a test of faith, and a test of faith causes us to have a complete trust in the Most High God, knowing that He's in control, number one, and that we know that we're going to believe for a positive outcome. And many times when it comes to any type of sickness or disease, we're believing for victory in that area. And in a way, I guess part of the silver lining is at least for your son, at least the tumor is slow growing. It's not one of those horrible, aggressive, glioblastoma type brain
Right.
cancers that, my God, I've already had a few friends who passed away from that type of
Yeah.
cancer. And
Yeah.
so that definitely can get scary.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, we're going to have fear. It's just how we're going to use that fear to move
Right.
forward in a positive way. And when we move forward in a positive way, there's a huge step of faith in all of that. And
Right.
so,
Yeah.
and I know that you and I are going to be doing a podcast interview on my other show, Life Changing Wellness. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I know you're deeply listening to this interview with Janine and I, and we're going to get deeper into this story on
Yeah.
my podcast. But I encourage everyone out there to pick up a copy of her brand new book. It's called The Opposite of Certainty: Fear, Faith, and Life in Between. It is released May 12th. And Janine, where will people be able to buy your new book?
It's going to be on all the online retailers. There's Amazon, there's IndieBound to support your local bookstores, and many of the independent booksellers right now are also selling directly during the pandemic.
Oh, well, fantastic. And Janine, I want to thank you so much for
Yeah.
giving us your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, stick with me. We have more today on today's program, and I will be right back after this message.